7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Roger, have a lift off and the clock is operating. That's the clock.
Mr. Buck Jim came back into his view. The only thing I wish is I had more. This is the greatest experience I've just remembered.
Down, Eagle. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the grid.
In every nation, there are historic events that become a watershed in the life of that nation. You will remember where you were when President Kennedy was assassinated. And you will remember the day we first launched a man into space. Such was the excitement surrounding America's first space shots in Project Mercury. Millions of Americans set their alarm clocks and rose before the sun to witness this grand adventure. One can only imagine the tremendous commitment it would take to stand at the edge of an abyss and go forth, not knowing if you will ever return. It is this commitment that makes heroes of those men who still choose to go forward and face the dangers of the great unknown. This is the essential character, commitment, and courage required of America's first astronauts, and it was indeed the right stuff. But they were also men who were in the right place at the right time to be given the chance to earn the title of heroes. Officially beginning on October 7, 1958, the mission of Project Mercury was to investigate man's potential to survive and work in the harsh environment of space and develop the basic technology of manned space exploration. It was the Cold War atmosphere of the late 50s that conveyed a genuine sense of urgency to America's Man in Space program. Following the launch of Sputnik, there was little doubt that America's superpower rival, the Soviet Union, intended to win the space race. Thus, the name Mercury would underline the need for speed in this endeavor. To accomplish this formidable mission, an alliance was forged between NASA, the newly formed National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the military, and American industry. New technologies had to be developed at breakneck speed. Earlier ICBM booster rockets would be refined and modified to perform the task, but the payload would be quite different. Since there were no earlier capsules for manned spaceflight, it would have to be built from the ground up. First, there was a question of design. Physical characteristics allowing for life support systems, the pilot and his controls were essential. Then there was the question of composition. The framework would be constructed of titanium, a metal possessing 10 times the strength of steel at less than half the weight. And of course there was the question of how to protect the capsule upon re-entry, when friction from the atmosphere would heat the vehicle to over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. A special epoxy compound with an extremely high melting point was tested and found capable of performing this crucial function. While all of this was taking place, the call went out to America's armed services for test pilots who possessed the skills, courage, and desire to venture into space. From the hundreds who applied, 69 were summoned to Washington. 47 volunteered, but only 7 were chosen. These men were to become heroes and household names. Now these new astronauts became an important part of the development process. They would become involved in every aspect of the program, especially the design of the capsule. As astronaut pilots, their opinions on placement of the instruments and controls were extremely important. In addition, the original design of the Mercury capsule did not include a window, but upon the unwavering insistence of all 7 astronauts, one was added. While the new technology was being assembled for their flights into space, the new astronauts underwent one of the most extensive and rigorous training programs in history. They would experience the sensation of weightlessness. They would feel the effects of increased gravitational pressure, or G's, that they'd encounter on liftoff. And they would acquire the skills necessary to maneuver and control their spacecraft in any situation. Then it was the capsule's turn. Once preliminary design was completed, the Mercury capsule prototype would be put through its paces. How would the capsule separate from its rocket vehicle once it arrived in orbit? How would it behave upon impact on return? How would the parachutes deploy once it re-entered the atmosphere? Nothing was left to chance. Then, in order to test the capsule's viability in flight, NASA develops the Little Joe. This half-rocket permitted flight testing without having to exhaust the supply of more expensive Redstone rockets. Through all of the testing, the most important factor is to ensure the safety of the astronauts. Safety systems with backups and manual overrides are designed and deployed. Escape tower mechanisms are tested and incorporated into the Little Joe. This was the astronauts' last line of defense, a system designed to lift the capsule out of harm's way in event of an early flight abort or catastrophic failure. Now the stage is set to test the capsule and Redstone rocket in an actual launch, designated MR-1, Mercury Redstone 1. The Army Redstone missile would be modified to complete its mission. It was elongated by 14 feet to house larger fuel tanks and electronics monitoring equipment. An electronic brain was added, designed to sense problems and determine if a launch firing should be aborted or safety systems activated. The Mercury capsule is prepared at the McDonnell plant and then flown to the Marshall Space Flight Center for complete compatibility testing with the Redstone booster. There, it is test-fired, using the same sequence of events and controls that will be used for the actual launch at Cape Canaveral. Following successful testing, the capsule is delivered to Hangar 5 at Cape Canaveral. Here, it faces another round of tests before it is mated to the Redstone rocket. On November 1st, 1960, the countdown proceeds with all systems go. The rocket engine fires but immediately shuts down, and although the aborted launch is caused by a minor malfunction in the ground support equipment, valuable data is collected and the safety systems deployed properly. A new booster is brought in, refitted, retested, and mated to the original capsule. The MR-1 launch is rescheduled for December 19, 1960. From liftoff to recovery, the shot comes off perfectly. Following on the success of MR-1, there remains one more test before a human passenger rides into space. An astronaut stand-in is needed. 3 chimpanzees have been trained for the purpose, and one of them will be selected as the pilot for the test shot designated MR-2. The chimp named Ham gets the job. After a complete physical, Ham is prepared for his mission. Lying in his custom-made couch, electrodes are attached to his body to monitor his vital signs. Other electrodes are attached to his feet to gently shock him as a reminder to activate 2 levers inside his custom pressurized container. As there is no spacesuit to fit him, Ham is placed in a special pressurized container that will protect him should the Mercury capsule lose cabin pressure. The Redstone booster is fuel. Ham is brought to the launch pad. The MR2 countdown would be identical to the first manned spaceflight sequence. Alan Shepard, the man who has been selected for the first ballistic suborbital flight, is a more than casual observer as Ham is loaded into the Mercury capsule. The launch is flawless, but as he's hurtled into space, Ham's heartbeat and other vital signs are racing so fast, there's major concern among the ground crew. The Redstone rocket attains an altitude 40 miles higher than planned and consequently travels 120 miles downrange past the planned splashdown point. In just 16 minutes of flight, the gallant chimp attained a speed of nearly 5,000 miles per hour, reached an altitude of 155 miles, and traveled 235 miles downrange. Now the time has come for the first American to travel in space. On a mission designated MR3, Alan Shepard will fly his Mercury capsule named Freedom 7 to the threshold of space on a suborbital ballistic shot. The sense of urgency surrounding the U.S. space program is now greater than ever. For just 3 weeks earlier, on April 12, 1961, the Soviet Union became the first country to put a man in space as cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin successfully completes an Earth orbit. The day is May 5th, 1961. MR3 was originally scheduled for May 2nd, but bad weather caused the delay. Today, it's all systems go. Shepard arrives at the launch pad as the NASA technicians meticulously work through their countdown and complete the final preparations. Spotlights illuminated MR3 in the pre-dawn hours as the Naval Academy graduate boards the elevator to keep his date with destiny. As Shepard is sealed into his Freedom 7 capsule, mission control is in readiness and the recovery area personnel are alerted that the launch is a go.
Okay, to resume the count. Roger, ready to resume the count. STE, I'm going to turn it over to Stoney, verify. Resume the count. Okay, Stoney, take it over. Roger. 5 seconds. 7, Stoney, on your room. 7, loud and clear, Stoney. Roger, loud and clear, also. 1 minute and counting. Roger. Firing command. 30 watts. Roger, periscope has retracted. That's the front periscope to cut. Main bus 24 volts, 26 amps. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, sir. Reading you loud and clear. This is Freedom 7. The fuel is go. 1.2 G. Cabin at 14 psi. Oxygen is go. Cabin pressure is holding at 5.5. Cabin holding at 5.5. Fuel is go. 2.5 G. Cabin 5.5. Oxygen is go. The main bus is 24. And the isolated battery is 29. Seven here. Fuel is go. 4G. 5.5 cabin. Oxygen go. All systems are go. Cut off. Tower Jettison green. On the periscope. What a beautiful view. Cloud cover over Florida. 3 to 4 tenths near the eastern coast. Obscures up through Hatteras. Switching to manual yaw.
Everything functions perfectly, and the mission is a complete success. In a total elapsed time of 16 minutes, Shepard has rocketed to an altitude of 115 miles, spent 5 minutes in weightlessness, and traveled 300 miles downrange, thus becoming the first American to fly in space. He has earned a place in history and receives a hero's welcome from President Kennedy at the White House. One more suborbital flight will be flown by astronaut Virgil Gus Grissom. Some capsule modifications have been made, including a new exploding hatch designed to make it easier for the astronauts to exit the craft. On July 21st, 1961, Grissom lifts off in his capsule named Liberty Bell 7. Again, the suborbital flight comes off without a hitch. The launch and flight to the threshold of space are perfect. The retro burn and re-entry are right on target. However, as Grissom waits for recovery, the new explosive hatch cover is blown and Liberty Bell 7 quickly floods with seawater. Grissom doesn't get out a moment too soon as the recovery team manages to attach a line to the capsule. With its landing gear partially submerged, the chopper attempts to lift the capsule from the sea. It is nearly pulled down into the ocean with the capsule. The chopper makes one last attempt to lift the spacecraft out of the water, but the crew finally has no choice but to cut it loose and can only watch as it sinks into the Atlantic. Losing the capsule proves to be an embarrassment to NASA, but in reality it was not a serious setback. The lessons learned from Liberty Bell and Freedom 7 now set the stage for America's first orbital space flight. Marine Lieutenant Colonel John Glenn has been selected to fly the mission. The date is February 20th, 1962. The launch vehicle has been upgraded from the Mercury Redstone to the Mercury Atlas. Atlas is only 12 feet taller than Redstone, but at a total weight of nearly 260,000 pounds, it's 4 times its size and develops 4 1/2 times more thrust. However, with all 7 Mercury astronauts present, Atlas shows its dark side. With a launch failure rate in excess of 40%, there is reason for concern. But NASA is up to the challenge. Modifications and improvements are made, and the Atlas is ready.
All stations. Gantry is in launch position.
But as the rockets get bigger and the missions longer, the sheer volume of data involved grows dramatically. The computers monitoring the various functions and system status or the telemetry of this mission are now tracking 2,000 items per second. A confident John Glenn arrives at Cape Canaveral Complex 14 and prepares to board the Friendship 7. Based on their experiences with the two previous suborbital missions, the ground crew has the routine down cold.
Okay, John. You're ready.
A series of 18 flight control stations are chained together around the globe to track Glenn's Mercury capsule named Friendship 7 on its 3 orbits.
All pins out. Code display. Okay, that's fine. All right, there.
Get that hitter to it.
All right. Lock taking. Have a braking high level right. You are go. Order systems, go. Range operations. Mercury capsule, go. All pre-start panel lights are correct. The ready light is on. Eject Mercury umbilical. Oil evacuate. Mercury umbilical clear. Mercury is go. Lights on. All recorders too fast. T-minus 18 seconds and counting engine start. May the Weaver be with you, Thomas. Good Lord, ride all the way. Godspeed, John Glenn. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Backup clock is started. 102, 101, oxygen 78, 100, amp 27. Roger, loud and clear, flight path is good, 6-9.
At last, the United States has a man in orbit.
Okay, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous.
Glenn is now traveling at 17,545 miles per hour. It will take Friendship 7 just 88 minutes to complete an orbit. About halfway through the mission, Glenn's attention is attracted to particles that are floating around his capsule.
Blood pressure check. Particles that I cannot identify coming around the capsule occasionally, over. All Roger. How big are these particles? Over.
Very small. I would indicate they're of the order of a 1/16 of an inch or smaller. They drift by the window, and I can see them against the dark sky. Just at sunrise, there were literally thousands of them.
Mission Control, however, thinks they may be related to the landing cushion that's housed behind the heat shield. A warning light is indicating it may have deployed.
We are recommending that you leave the retro package on during the entire re-entry. This means that you will have to override the 05G switch, which is expected to occur at 0443. This also means that you will have to manually retract the scope. Do you read?
This is Friendship 7. What is the reason for this? Do you have any reason? Over.
Not at this time. This is the judgment of safe flight.
We're not sure whether or not your landing bag is deployed. We feel it's far safer to re-enter with the retro package on. We see no difficulty at this time in that type of re-entry. Over.
Roger. Understand.
If the heat shield is not in its proper position, the capsule will be burned up by re-entry temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun.
Roger. Friendship 7.
Go ahead, keep your ground. You're going out. Retro pack upon reaching 1 to 1.5 G. Do you understand? Over.
The 3,000-degree fireball that envelops the capsule upon re-entry makes radio contact impossible, and Mission Control suffers through some nervous moments.
My condition is good, but that was a real fireball, boy. I had great chunks of that retro pack breaking off all the way through.
It did break off, is that correct?
Roger, altimeter off the peg indicating 80,000.
Chute is out in reef condition at 10,800 feet and beautiful chute. Chute looks good.
And before long, John Glenn and his Friendship 7 capsule have been fished out of the Atlantic Ocean. His total flight time for the 3 orbits was 4 hours and 56 minutes. In addition to meeting President Kennedy, John Glenn was given a New York ticker tape parade. In a preview of his future career, Glenn addresses a joint session of Congress. Building on the success of John Glenn's flight, the next mission, to be flown by Navy Lieutenant Commander Scott Carpenter, has been loaded up with scientific experiments. Carpenter will make celestial and solar observations, study liquids in weightlessness, and perform a considerable amount of photography. The day is May 24, 1962. As Carpenter arrives at the launch complex and prepares to board his Aurora 7 capsule to fly the mission-designated Mercury Atlas 7, everything proceeds smoothly. A couple of modifications have been made to the Mercury capsule since the last flight. One of the primary components Carpenter will test are the new high-pressure maneuvering thrusters. Carpenter will also experiment on whether or not body movement has any effect on capsule orientation. Another test calls for him to inflate a balloon and trail it behind his capsule to examine spaceflight dynamics. In addition, he will study the haze layer around the planet noted on earlier flights. In all, the mission can indeed be marked down in NASA history as the first full work day in space. Downrange, the recovery personnel are mobilized and take their place. After Carpenter is sealed into the capsule and the tower is rolled back, it is determined that all systems are go.
Your attention, please. We are holding at T-minus 11 minutes. Flight Director, is this a weather hold?
Affirmative. T-minus 18 seconds and counting. Engine start.
15. Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
I feel the liftoff. The clock has started.
Roger.
Loud and clear, Captain.
Roger, Aurora 7, stand by for the time hack.
Roger. Little bit of shaking. Pretty smooth.
3, 2, 1, mark.
Roger, the backup clock has started. 4 minutes. Aurora 7 is go. Fuel and oxygen steady. Cabin holding 25. I am weightless and starting the fly-over turnaround. Ox stamp is good.
As soon as orbit is attained, Carpenter's workload begins with the visual tracking of his booster as it follows him into orbit. This skill will prove essential in later missions requiring rendezvous in space. After observing Venus on the horizon, Carpenter finds the time to figure out what the white particles are that were first sighted by Glenn.
They look exactly like snowflakes to me.
And that's what they proved to be, condensation particles. Around the globe, ground stations track his progress.
This message for me, Gordo, to all the troops at Guaymas. Hola, amigos. Felicitaciones a México y especialmente a mis amigos de Guaymas.
His experiments keep him busy and occupied.
Aurora 7, did the balloon inflate?
The balloon is partially inflated. I would say we have about a 1 cycle per minute oscillation. It's both in pitch and yaw.
But then, problems begin to develop. His pressure suit temperature regulator malfunctions and suddenly heats up to 102 degrees. Then it is determined that the new high-pressure thrusters have consumed the capsule's fuel at an alarming rate. There is some concern at Mission Control, as it is determined his low fuel level will require manual override for retrofire on re-entry.
Gyros are off.
Right, you'll have to use attitude bypass, man, and manual override.
Roger.
4, 3, 2.
With barely enough fuel to re-enter the atmosphere, Carpenter attempts the manual re-entry.
Okay, fire 1, fire 2, and fire 3. I had to push off manually, and we're out of fuel.
Roger, we show you still have some engine fuel left.
Yes, but I can't get anything out of it.
The 3-second delay he experiences in manually firing his retro rockets causes Carpenter's capsule to land 250 miles downrange from the prime recovery site.
Aurora 7, keep Capcom, over.
Both Mission Control and the capsule lose radio contact.
Does anybody read Aurora 7, over?
Flight network. Go ahead. Source through Antigua reports they see life raft with Carpenter inside alongside the capsule.
There is some concern as it takes over an hour to reach and recover the astronaut. Even though he landed outside the prime recovery area, the mission is a solid success. A hero's welcome awaits him. The country is totally enthralled in its new celebrities and never misses a chance to show its gratitude. On October 3rd, 1962, astronaut Wally Schirra takes his turn as the Mercury pilot. His Sigma 7 capsule will double the previous number of orbits and fly 6 times around the Earth in a 9-hour and 13-minute mission.
Putting the gear pins for this flight? Yeah, I got the pins on my office wall. Altimeter's off the page. Stand by for 20 seconds. Okay. 2, 1, march. Roger, backup started and running good. I'll give you a hack at line 30. Oh, she's riding beautiful, dude. Mark 30. Okay, fuel is okay.
Disaster nearly ends the mission early as the Atlas missile over-rotates during launch and is on the verge of aborting when the rocket auto-corrects.
Not at all too noisy. Easy to talk through.
Improved NASA filming equipment enables us to see rocket staging occur. Right away, Schirra has the same overheating problem with his spacesuit that Carpenter experienced, but that soon corrects itself too.
Roger, I have good news. The suit inlet temperature is now 70 degrees. Over.
The modifications to the Mercury capsule from this flight concentrated mainly on improving fuel capacity and usage. Without sufficient fuel on board, Schirra would be forced to return early.
Roger, Hawaii Capcom, it's 67, how do you read? All quantities and systems are green. I am green.
Okay, fine. Case field, you're in good shape, Wally, and so I have good news. They give you a go for 6 orbits.
Hallelujah.
Schirra was given the green light for 6 orbits, and the modifications and his skilled flying allowed him to return with more than half his fuel.
I'm going to fly by wire, Al, to pick up the re-entry attitude. Manual is going in.
And we're showing you have about 6-8% auto and 84% manual fuel left. I think our readings are about.
I got 6-8 auto and 7-8 manual. Standing by for retro jet.
After completing his 6 orbits, Schirra splashes down within view of the prime recovery ship in the project's first Pacific recovery.
I'm about ready to impact now. I'm just about on the word. Okay, it's taken a while to right itself, but I think I've got the small end out of the water here. Oh, this is a sweet little bird. I just can't get over.
Hello, Astro. Hello, Astro. It's Swift 1, primary view, over.
Hey, Roger, Swift 1. This is Astro. How are you today?
Hi, this is fine. I got you on Berghoff. Give me a short count, please.
Roger, short count follows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is Astro Sigma 7. Very happy to be back in the Pacific Fleet.
Okay, Astro, the swimmer's in the water.
Wally Schirra waits for his Sigma 7 capsule to be placed on deck before blowing his hatch door and exiting the craft. The final Project Mercury mission was flown on May 15th and 16th, 1963. On this flight, Air Force Major Gordon Cooper is scheduled to complete 22 orbits in what NASA calls a full day in space. The length of the mission requires Project Mercury engineers to make sweeping changes to the capsule. Over 100 modifications take place in order to accommodate the quantities of oxygen, water, food, and fuel necessary to complete the mission. 12 experiments are planned, including the release of a lighted beacon for visual tracking exercises.
Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, Roger, have a lift off and the clock is operating. That's the clock. Sigma 7, phase 7 on the way. Standing by to start the backup clock. Roger. 3, 2, 1, mark. Roger, and the backup clock is running. Roger, you look good here, Gordo. Roger, feels good, buddy. Great sport. 30 seconds and fuel is go. Oxygen is go. Cabin pressure on the top. Sun is coming in the window now. Roger, we're standing by for your beacon. Roger.
As Cooper settles in for the long haul, the mission progresses smoothly. He conducts his scheduled experiments, including the release of the tracking ball, and observes it following his orbital path. Cooper and Faith 7 sail through the first 18 orbits. Weightlessness has little effect. Cooper easily sleeps, eats, and drinks. But on the 19th orbit, warning lights go on. Then all attitude readings and instruments are lost. Even the autopilot is dead. Cooper switches to reserve power. One by one, the electrical systems go down. All the automatic systems are out, and the only thing left functioning on Faith 7 is Cooper.
I wonder if you'd relay to the Cape some situation I had happen, see what they think on it. While turning my warning lights off and back on to dim, my 05G telelight came on in my telelight panel.
Now America's longest flight is on the brink of disaster. With all systems down, Cooper has one chance. Emerging from the dark side of the Earth, Cooper must align the ship at exactly the right angle with the horizon as his only reference and manually fire the retro rockets the second he enters daylight over the Pacific. Cooper had no way of knowing how appropriate his earlier prayer would be.
Startling, wondrous things that you've created. Be with all our families. Let them know that everything will be okay.
On the final orbit, with the life support systems down, carbon dioxide builds in Faith 7. Everything now depends on the pilot, just as the astronauts said from the start.
I'm looking for lots of experience on this flight. You're going to get it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, squib arm, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. Roger, green on air.
Landing just 4 miles from the recovery ship, Cooper makes the point. Cooper has flown 22 orbits, lost 7 pounds, traveled over 600,000 miles, and brought Faith 7 home. Now, with the safe return of Faith 7, Project Mercury is over. From the beginning to the end, Project Mercury lasted 4 years, 8 months, and 5 days. The total flight time of the 6 manned missions was 54 hours, and the distance traveled totaled 900,000 miles. Of the 7 original Mercury astronauts, all flew a mission except Donald Deke Slayton, who was detected to have a minor health problem. Slayton would finally get into space, but not until July of 1975, as part of the joint American and Russian Apollo-Soyuz flight. John Glenn would ride his fame to a career in the United States Senate. Scott Carpenter did not fly in space again. Future projects would instead take him deep under the sea. Gordon Cooper flew again in the Gemini program, as did Wally Schirra, who also went on to fly an Apollo mission. Gus Grissom flew again in Project Gemini, but sadly, he was one of 3 victims in the Apollo 1 training fire disaster in January of 1967. As commander of Apollo 14, Alan Shepard was the only Mercury astronaut to finally walk on the moon. Today, Project Mercury remains as the foundation upon which the American manned space program was built. And although Project Mercury was achieved with great haste, the thoroughness of the research and the effectiveness of the solutions stand as a monument today.